So, Cero is actually India's first automotive and steel recycling company. It came a bit late in India, I would say. It was always there in the Western and the Eastern markets across the world. And in India, along with MSTC, were the first one to form it. Uh, to give you an idea about the India market in terms of ELV, what we estimate as of now, based on 2020 records, there are about 81.5 million vehicles which are running, which are ELVs in India. And that is something from the Ministry of Transport. And going forward by 2025, this number is going to reach 127 million. So there's going to be an addition of about 46 million as we move forward in the next 5 years. How much of 81 million is actually running is a question mark. We don't know. We know that vehicles are often discarded in a wave and there's no proper documentation. But in the records today, these numbers are there. And that's where we just try to present that. That means there's enough and more vehicles which are going to be coming for ELVs as we move forward. On top of it, and that is something which we are taking 15 years old. So on that, if you add how much is the vehicle sales happening from 2011 to 2020, we are roughly about 21 million sales every year. This includes everything, two-wheelers and four-wheelers. So the India's industry is quite big. And last year, of course, we had a drop in India, about 25% down. So it was 21.54 last year, but it's been going steadily. So on an average, and bulk of these sales, 60% is basically the two-wheelers in India. Now, what happened over a period of time was, of course, there was change in technology, the better engines came up. And the biggest concern in India today, if you ask us, we are ranked globally 168 in the environmental index. And one of the reasons is our vehicles, which are old, are running with very old engines. And we've just done a comparison. We do have some statistics to also show, but maybe at some other stage. The emission of one car is equal to emission of 10 new cars. If you look at today's engines versus what it was in 2000, closer to that. And same thing for the trucks. One old truck is about 8 new trucks. Now, these are something which is proven by data in terms of engines. And so as we move forward, I think the engines are going to be much more important. But the older vehicles need to actually go out of the roads or need to be discarded and they need to be scrapped. And just to give you a scale, in India, every day about 50,000 vehicles, which includes two-wheelers, again, let me say, get added in Indian roads. So the question, of course, is where is the infrastructure? But the bigger question is that so many vehicles keep getting added, which means also every day so many vehicles need to be discarded, which are 15 or 20 years old. Now, interestingly, India imports about 6 to 7 million tons of steel scrap every year. And that's equivalent to about $2 billion of total reserves in terms of imports. And as we move forward, we expect that this number of 10 to 12 million tons will get imported and much more, the way India is looking at consumption. And the steel recycling industry is in a very good shape to actually cater to this 10 to 12 million tons of steel, which is getting imported right now. So there's a big opportunity in terms of meeting the demand. So as long as you're able to recycle properly, there are customers which are available in India which can buy the scrap, of course, at a price, and that we will discuss in India about dynamics, how does it play out. Now, this is something I don't need to dwell much on it, but of course, it's got of benefits of recycling, natural resource you can conserve, which is very important, greenhouse, environmental control, import dependency, which is of course the country. Then, of course, two very economic reasons is that because of these policies, the automotive markets will actually be having larger growth as we move forward, which also creates a lot of employment in the country. And also there will be a lot of other related benefits in terms of taxes and all, which government can look at. So overall, for all the stakeholders, we believe recycling is a very good policy to begin with. And just to tell you, in terms of steel, when you produce for a steel mill, they can use a lot of natural earth material. For example, 1600 kgs of iron ore, 625 kgs of coal, 53 kgs of lime. So many raw materials actually go into it. And so by recycling, you're able to save these natural resources. That's the whole focus of recycling. Now, in a vehicle, generally, what we are looking at, Zero, and what we will talk about going forward is we are looking at about 90-95% of recycling as we move forward. And it includes steel, which goes into melting, which goes into making of TMTs and billets in India in a big way. Then you also have aluminum, which of course goes into a lot of applications in engines, in cables and foils and other any other applications. And then you have let's say copper, which goes into cables and other consumer durables. But apart from that, you have tires, which again get reused, and also plastics, which can be used in different forms. So our idea would be that as we move forward in the recycling sector, to recycle about 90-95% of the entire material, which is used when the cars are being made, and that's the kind of ambition we have in Zero. And if you look at about 10 million ELVs, you save so much of steel. You have 40 lakh tons of steel, you have 5.5 lakh tons of aluminum, we've got 0.6 tons of copper, and 3 lakh tons of rubber. So frankly, what we are talking about is that as a country, you benefit immensely if you are able to recycle your natural resources back. And that's where most of the countries, both in the developed world or even in countries like which are developing, have actually started doing recycling in a very big way. Now, before I come to where Zero is, let me give you how the Indian sector is organized as of now, or rather unorganized at this point of time. So this is how it's being done in India, the old car, and that's where there's no statistical record of how many vehicles which get recycled. So these old vehicles land up into garages, they can go into centers which are unauthorized, and you have manual processes, people pushing and using and taking out parts, everything being done under very stressful conditions. And at the same time, all these wear and tear parts are sold. Many times the vehicles are not documented properly. Even the documentation is not done, or nor is the deregistration done. So for the customer, it's a big problem, because it creates a lot of issues relating to transparency. And also there's a risk for him, because if he gives a vehicle, in these cases, you never know if the vehicle plate is being used by some other vehicles or not. And this is in Delhi. If you go in some places, you will find like this happening, that you have all these bumpers, and you will have various parts stored in the roofs and all of buildings. And also, this is how India operates. It's a very strong and unorganized market that's happening it across the country. India is about 95, 96, 97% like this even today. And so, seeing all this thing, we wanted actually to bring a change in the market. We said, this would not change. The informal sector would frankly would not be able to invest on high-end technologies, and this is not where the country like India should look at recycling their vehicles. We need to be with the best. And what it means in these processes is unsafe disposal. There's no transparency for customer. There's issues of environmental control, and it's a very bad working condition for the people who are working. So that's where Zero was born. Zero, let me just tell you, it's actually a Spanish word which means zero. And we were looking at various options and all, and that's where we said we need to have a word which is very catchy and also signifies the company's intent. And that's where the story of Zero, which was India's first organized recycler, started. I'll just run a short video to show what is our intention. But before that, just to give you an idea, this company was formed between Mahindra and MSTC. Mahindra as a group always believed in recycling. They always believed in sustainability. And actually speaking, our chairman actually has pledged that as a group, we will be a responsible citizen and give it back to nature, what is required. At the same time, MSTC, which was government enterprise, and frankly speaking, unheard, they were into this particular sector, and frankly, we had a lot of discussion. And we said, why not we create a company which is first of its kind of public-private partnership in this sector, and try to make sure that we give our customers a delightful experience. So the Zero was born. The whole idea was towards a zero pollution nation, to make sure vehicles are recycled properly and transparently. This, of course, is a joint venture, 50-50. It's been going very fine. We have expanded now in many centers across the country. We'll show you later where all we are present. But what started as an idea in 2016-17 was actually then taken over, and our team actually built both from the Ministry of Steel and from Mahindra SLO's team, and they have been able to convert this team into reality and set up the first of its kind joint partnership with Government of India. Just run a brief video just to show our intent when we started. Yeah. So that was the introduction to Cero. Just a word of caution: forming that hand chain nowadays is not advisable. So we did it at the time, and things were very much open, and so I just thought of telling that. So Cero was born. It's the first organized automotive recycling initiative. It uses eco-friendly ways of recycling, and the whole idea is that we generate steel. It reduces at reducing. It aims at reducing India's dependence on steel imports. The objectives were very clear. We wanted towards a zero pollution nation as a company, and we were the first one in India to get the license for authorized vehicle recycler. So our number is 001, as you can see in the screen. In 2018, we were the first one in the country to get that. What we did was, and I think my colleagues actually did a great job uh, by making sure that we follow all the international quality norms and also the environmental compliances. So frankly, if you see our company, we follow the most stringent norms which is being followed, be it in Europe or Japan, or for that matter, I think even in US. And we are fully compliant the way our processes, what we do. It's fully integrated. We are totally on SAP, and end to end, there's a full traceability of vehicles which are happening. So we want to be a benchmark in the world. We want to be a company which is very different and of highest standards and integrity. What we do is presently we are processing for trucks, buses, two-wheelers, machinery, industrial scrap, and frankly, as you can see, I think I just saw Patricia of Iris Mech even writing that we partnered with Iris Mech for equipments in India. Basically, we are working together, and so what we are saying is we don't want to restrict ourselves. Along with both Iris Mech and all, we'll be very happy to get your inquiries for even equipments and supply to you. So you can send your requirements to Cero or even to Cero team and all, and then we can get in touch with Iris Mech and come back to you. But we are working as a partnership company together in India. What we do is collect the vehicles. We then take it to our dismantling centers, do the deregistration, depollution, and then of course look at part of that in recycling. A lot of steel which gets back to shredding plants, and then also we do the segregation for ferrous, non-ferrous, depending on how much we are able to do at this point of time. End to end, it's well defined, the process, and there's a complete transparency as far as the customers are concerned. We are also very digitally enabled. So frankly, you can look at our websites, and if for the customers, if they want to get an experience end to end, there's an LMS system which is getting launched very recent, launched to the market to the customers very recently, and everything is through a digital medium at this point of time. The transactions are paperless, and you can get a valuation very quickly. All you have to do is actually just dial us on number 1800 2676 000, and from there onwards, our customer care will take care of everything, starting from making sure the vehicles are inspected at your house. We do the valuation, give the price, do the payment immediately, and then of course certificate of destructions or deposit is given. The vehicles are taken back from your place, and then the recycling is done, and then of course we inform the RTO and do the deregistration. So end to end, the customer is fully involved. He gets a full transparency. We are also making sure that we have complete digitization in the entire process, and we operate on SAP, as I said. So end to end, everything can be mapped. Now, where all we are operating, we are today now in 9 cities already. So we work in Chandigarh. We have we are operating out of Noida, Jaipur, Ahmedabad, Mumbai, Pune, Bangalore, Chennai, and Hyderabad. Just to tell you the name and place where we are today. So we are already in 9. We starting our first plant in Noida, and then we started increasing our operations to other places. And in the next 1 year's time, by next March, we'll be at 25 places across the country. So we will operate, and our plan is to go up to 200 in the next 2 years. So we are going to be looking at aggressive growth. We do have a big concern, which I will raise it towards the end. But as far as the plan is concerned, we are looking at scaling it up in a very big way. Now, apart from this, what we are also doing is we are trying to integrate the unorganized fellows, and so make them and make them understand our business model, and they can be our partners. So we are trying to educate them, and let's hope we are able to change the way the present ecosystem works. And if we can do something for them along as we grow, that will be great. That's the whole idea as we move forward. Now that is again through digitalization, how we are trying to integrate all these players in the markets through our website and through our portal and all, where we are trying to get them online and then look at how we can increase their incomes and how we can increase their revenues and all. Now, India very recently announced the policy, and it was a very welcome decision. But I must also flag off some concerns what we have. So if you look at Europe, Japan, China, most of these countries actually had policies defined by government in a very clear way, and basically they also gave them support initially, at least to begin with, or they define the number of years, or they make it sure that the policies are very stringent and are fully followed up. So Europe, I know it's very difficult to have a car if you are more than 8 to 10 years, because you have a lot of fitment tests and all. And so basically moving forward, you don't see much very old vehicles in any case. And same is the situation in Japan, China, and in US, you had actually cash for clunker schemes when they started it. The India, the biggest concern is this policy is voluntary as of now, which means basically our biggest concern is if you're going to be voluntary, there's no change as of now. It's also voluntary today, and that's what I showed the numbers, and which would also mean that, frankly speaking, on the investments which we are doing, and that's always a question which is being asked, we may not have a return for next 5 to 10 years, because ultimately in voluntary policy you can't ask people to give the vehicles, and then people are free to decide, or they're free to dispose of in the way they are able to do it. So this is one big concern which we have, unlike many other countries where there are clear regulations and people follow it to the core. The second thing is, of course, the government is doing their best to say that there will be green tax, fitness test, and higher cost. But frankly, on the incentive sides, they are all proposals. It's not a commitment. So when we ask the end user, the OEMs are not ready to commit on discount. The state governments, as of now, are not fully on board on any road tax debates, or anyone is looking at waiver of registration fee. So there's no incentivization for the customer. And our biggest concern is, if there's not going to be any incentivization, you will end up in the existing system where we are today, where customers will still decide go to the unorganized markets where he will have and cash, and then they will be able to do and sell off their cars and all. So this is an overall a big concern which is there, and frankly this has to be taken care, otherwise the sector will find a very difficult moving forward. So the critical success factors, the way we see is, will voluntary policies succeed? That's very, very critical. I've not seen any country where it's voluntary and it really succeeds, unless and until you implement and make sure then the systems and checks are very, very strong. And frankly, we all know it's not going to be easy in India. Second is the incentives needs to be there at least in the initial couple of years, and that was the case in most of the countries and nations. In India right now, we are not seeing people really agreeing to that. Different states have different policies. I don't want to take state by state, but I can tell you today we are now working in 8 or 9 different states, and every state it's impossible to cope up with their kind of functioning because everybody has its own roots. So also a problem and a challenge at times. So what we believe is very important is the policy needs to come with a change of making it mandatory rather than making it voluntary, and that's what we are requesting. We're not sure whether that will happen because given the public response, I still believe it will remain as voluntary. The other one is on the strict implementation of rules which are proposed. They need to be done, and penalties need to be followed. It should not be like the policies are there but it's not implemented. And incentives at the end of the day are need to be accepted by various agencies. Otherwise, it's not going to be attractive in India, and especially in EU. Or what happens is if you sell a car, the OEMs are actually uh, taking care and take some part of the responsibility and collect some tax, which they give it to the recycling companies in many cases. Same thing happens in Japan also in a different way. So what we are saying is here, if you are asking the scrap person to actually buy the car and sell the car, frankly, he will not make any money if there are no incentives left for the customer or intermediaries. So these are, we believe, are great challenges as we move forward. Let's hope things will be getting better as we move forward. That's all. Thank you. I come back here.
Yeah, hi Sumit. No, please don't go away. We have some questions for you, so that's great.
Okay.
That was fascinating. That was great. Seeing those pictures of the informal sector, I think, man, you know, for people who are outside of India, I'm sure are just going to see the task ahead.
Yeah.
And another thing, you know, the expansion that you're intending was it 2 years? Did you say up to 200 sites? Is this correct?
Yeah, we're looking at 200 plus. Yeah.
Wow, I'm looking forward to following this story. I know that. And also, thank you very much for outlining the challenges, which, you know, look at the size of India, and the pictures and the expansion needs. It shows that there is a big task ahead, and it's great to see the commitment and the fortitude that you have to doing everything correctly. So thank you. So anyway, let's move on to.
So Henry, I just want to come here. You asked about 200. So let me tell you one thing. There is a big discussion, of course, going on, which happens in the company just like any other company. You know, we are also looking at how is finally the policy going to involve, and finally what shapes and contour it takes it. Because if it's going to be a slightly policy where much of incentives are not proposed or the customer doesn't get, then we may have to scale down. So I'm not actually committing something. It's going to be driven by the policy. But yes, as I said to you, we are at 9 now. This year we want to reach at 25, and then going forward more. But it is also slightly a lot dependent on the policy outcomes as we move forward. Yeah.
Of course, we don't have a crystal ball, do we? But as I said, just the vision of the expansion is impressive in itself. If we can move on to some questions quickly, we are aware of time. The most popular question that's come in so far is, what are the ways by which Xero has tried to directly or indirectly integrate the large informal sector operating in ELV management? I think you came across, you mentioned that actually in your presentation, but would you like to expand on that?
So many of these are basically acting as our partners on many of the supply chain areas now. And what I can only give you a thing is that we believe those guys are very good. They are better than our people in the business because they have been long involved in the entire thing. The important thing is how can we learn from them, and how can we use them and leverage that resource which is available. So there's a team which is working on that, uh, uh, and we are trying to see how we can create a synergy. And if that does happen, it's going to be a great story by itself. So we just have to wait for a little more time, but that's an area work in progress which is happening at this point.
Okay, thanks. The next question down, if everyone's reading the question and answers, sort of, I think, sort of deals with that what we just answered. So let's combine the next two questions together. So the next question is, how effective have operators been in implementing dismantling standards? And the next question, I think it does roll on, is what stringent regulations has the Indian government passed when it comes to dismantling?
Okay. So I'll be on the first part on operators. I don't think while the government has laid down for the first time a draft policy, we are expecting that policy to get firmed up by October this year, sorry. But I do see some operators operating, but the policy, the stringent conditions in which they should do, it's not being followed, or it is not done the way it's being done correctly. We are expecting that once the policy comes through, then there would be a lot of, let's say, people will have to follow it and abide by the rules. Having said that, frankly, we have often seen sometimes the policy does come, but the implementation part doesn't work out so well. So we're hopeful this time it will work, but there are cases when you see the policies are there, but it just doesn't get implemented on ground and all. So that's where we are as of this point of time.
Okay, I'm just very much aware of time, so I'm just going to ask you one more question. But I'm just going to ask, because we have many questions coming through. You'll be staying around on the floor as such, so people can come and have a chat with you directly, or have a little bit of a a table of 3 or 4 people having a chat. Would you be around for a little bit longer afterwards?
So I will be there for another 15 minutes. I need to leave maybe by 3 or something. So maybe I'll sit down on some table and then people can come and yeah.
Okay, so please be aware that if you want to get in touch with Sumit directly, to do it now sooner rather than later. But anyway, let's ask the last question before we say goodbye. The question here is, can we not have an overall incentive policy for all partners in the policy to ensure a successful implementation of the policy itself?
So I think so. It's a good idea. It's a great idea, and we should work on that. We were requesting even the central government to think about to integrate all the stakeholders and come out with a policy where there's a incentive for, let's say, the entire value chain. But as of now, still it's not been firmed up, and there's no clarity. So nothing much on that to say at this stage.